and welcome back to AR-77. Thought I'd take time to do a bit of a comparison of these two, in some ways quite similar replica air guns. On the right hand side we've got the Sig 1911 Emperor Scorpion, and on the left hand side we've got the Sig 1911 Spartan edition. Similar in a number of ways, both based on real world SIGs, both different in that they're not your typical black guns or silver guns. On the right we've got this kind of tan finish, sort of desert kind of finish on the Emperor Scorpion, fitting with its name, and with the Spartan edition on the left hand side we've got this kind of bronze finish and some lovely Moulin Labe kind of branding and theme, which continues onto the grip. You've seen both these guns before if you watch any of my videos. I just thought I'd take a bit of time to show them side by side, because they're both really, I would say, aesthetically pleasing guns. They both look really nice for those of us who like to look at our guns and not just shoot them. Part of the pleasure of ownership, I think, with a replica is the way the gun looks, and both of these win a lot of points on that score. But let's have a look at the differences between the guns. Again, anyone who's seen the reviews of these guns will know pretty much everything that I'm going to say here, but it's nice to have them side by side, and let's be honest, it gives me an excuse to bring them back out of the cabinet. So, comparisons wise, let's do it like that. Some things that are very similar. You can see from the kind of the frames of both these guns that they are kind of, well, possibly based on using the same sort of molds, with a couple of details that I'm going to point out to you. So you could look at these slides and think, well, look at this sort of the Sig kind of branding there. Okay, look at these close details. Okay, look at where that is. Look at the front slide serrations in relation to the other one here, the Emperor Scorpion. It's pretty much in exactly the same place, so it looks very similar, very similar, very similar, but there are differences because of the operation of the gun itself. So you'll see here we do have a kind of a slide catch that works here, but on this one the slide catch is in the more realistic place. Let me just take the mag out. None of these guns are loaded, but I'll just take the mags out so that we can play properly. Yeah, the slide catch on this one exists in exactly the right place where it should do. This one, not so much. It just goes back to there. Also, you'll know, let me put my teeth in and start again. Also, you'll notice that as we come back here, you've got your sort of takedown notch there, showing you that this gun is field strippable. No such notch on the Spartan. And then the final thing here, which tells me, you know, it's the kind of the tin hat on it, is that this is a different mold because of the way that the safety works. It notches up into there, and you need to press that button to release it, whereas this is more like your traditional 1911. Yes, it goes up into there, but it's not built out. The slide is still kind of true and flush there, far more accurate to the actual 1911. Other than that, very similar slides, very similar as well on the lower frame. You can see here, I guess this is similar to the old GSR, Sig GSR sort of 1911s, but you can see it kind of protrudes a little bit. That grip looks like it kind of protrudes along here and down, and similar also on the slide, on the frame here, it's kind of protrudes. So it looks almost like a separate piece, although it's not. It's just the sort of the mold of the frame there. So similar in those regards as well. Let's have a look at the sights. So we've got on the front post there, you know, we've got the same sort of shape to the sights. Both of these sights are metal, and yet there's kind of that almost that bronzy finish continues onto the sight there on the onto the Spartan edition. A bigger dot on my Emperor Scorpion on the right here. That might just be this particular gun, but I certainly have a bigger dot on the Emperor Scorpion than I do on the Spartan. But those front posts are pretty much identical in size and shape. And back to the back here, similar again. Bigger dots on the Emperor Scorpion, as you can see on the right hand side. So let's just have a look at that sight picture as opposed to the sight picture. Try and get them both at the same time. Yeah, so it seems like there's a bit more wiggle room on the. I can't watch both at the same time. Seems like there's a bit more wiggle room there on the Spartan on the left than there is on the right. A bit less room for deviation, you might argue. Okay, well there you go. Sights very similar, slides very similar, lower frames quite similar. We've got, you know, the hammer is a skeletonized hammer on both, a bit more rounded on the Spartan, a bit more like a kind of a I don't know what shape you'd call that, kind of a cut out blade, I suppose. Not really a blade, is it? Tab on the trigger there. We have these kind of honeycomb checkering marks on the kind of back strap for both these guns. Obviously in the Spartan, that's part of the way you load the CO2. Obviously you take the side off here, CO2 goes in and there's that cantilever and that loads that in that way. Not so on the Emperor Scorpion, that's just a fixed part because you have the full-size magazine here which holds your CO2. I can pop that back in there now. But very similar, really nice grips on the Emperor Scorpion, as I've said before on the review, and really nice kind of sunk screws on the grips as well. I really like those. Next similarity, trigger. Very similar, almost identical in design, and yet both single action triggers. So quite nice. A bit more pressure needed on that, a bit more of a squeeze, whereas the Emperor Scorpion, it's really nice trigger there. Yeah, slightly less squeeze necessary, and a far more satisfying click when you pull the trigger. It feels just like it's better machined, I think, because it's a more accurate replica in terms of the functionality of the gun itself. Here you can hear that quite what's the word, disappointing anticlimactic release of the hammer there. And yet when you're shooting the gun for real, you've got that CO2 in it. The slide is popping back each time you shoot. It's going to reciprocate each time you shoot, and you're going to get that pop of the CO2. So you're not necessarily noticing the sort of lackluster hammer action, yet you still get all of that with the Emperor Scorpion, and it feels great as well, even when it's unloaded. So similar triggers, similar but slightly different hammers, and yeah, similar there. In terms of the grip safeties, both of these work. I would say actually I prefer the one on the Spartan, if I'm honest, just because there's a bit more resistance to it. It's a bit more of a tight spring, I guess. It feels a bit more stable, whereas the Emperor Scorpion, see, that's a bit more loosey-goosey, doesn't take much, and yet it's fully functional. It works really well. You're not shooting without it, so yeah, it just feels a bit less stable than the one on the Spartan. The Spartan magazine, I guess, is the biggest disappointment. This kind of plastic magazine, and yet I said it before, I'll say it again. It does the job. They look like they are carrying the same magazine. If you look at them next to each other there, they both look like they've got that kind of extended magazine into that kind of flared magwell. But it's just aesthetic, really, or cosmetic is the word I should use, I suppose. So yeah, the magazine's a bit of a disappointment on there, but it does what it needs to do. It holds those rounds. I suppose the other thing I would point out is at the front end, at the muzzle here, you've got that, it's a recessed barrel-ish. That looks far more authentic at the end there of the at the end of the Emperor Scorpion. You've got a bit more recessed. Bearing all that in mind, though, I suppose what that means is, and this is something I perhaps should have looked at before I made the video, this might be just a slightly longer barrel than you get on the Emperor Scorpion. You also will get more shots for your CO2 from the Emperor Scorpion, in my experience, because each time it shoots, it goes back as not as far. It kind of comes back like that, I would say, each time, just to cock the hammer. I don't think it ever gets right back there, or that it's got that range of movement. I think it just comes back like that each time it shoots. Whereas the Emperor Scorpion, you've got that full travel each time. So with it sending that slide back all the way, and it's quite a heavy slide as well, it's using a bit more CO2. Measure that again with this is more powerful, so you get more shots from this, in my experience, and they are more powerful shots. This, you're getting less shots, but I would say it's a more satisfying experience, kind of tactile experience of shooting it and feeling it reciprocate, I think, is more satisfying on the Emperor Scorpion than it is on the Spartan. Both lovely guns. If you can have both, then great, get both, especially if, like me, you're a 1911 fan. If you're a replica fan, you might be put off by the stick mag and the way the CO2 loads and stuff. You might be put off by the fact that this safety isn't really, I mean, you don't get a little extra button on a 1911 safety in reality like that. I guess it's not a big deal, but if you're a replica fan, you're not necessarily going to want that, and you might not like that lack of recession there in the at the end of the barrel. But yeah, they're both lovely guns. I wish I could get my hands on the Max Michel version, just to kind of, I mean, a bit of a completionist, and I want all the 1911s I can get, really, in my collection. There's some that I just can't seem to get in the UK, and the Max Michel, I think, may have been the more popular of these two, because it's essentially the same gun. It might have been the more popular, and therefore is harder to get hold of now. I do love the Spartan, but I'd love to have its stable mate with it also. So there you go, a bit of a comparison between these two guns. I think I've covered most features of where they are similar and where they differ. Hope you enjoyed the video. It was nice to get these two back out on the table together. I think I said I was going to make this video quite a long time ago, and I never got around to it, so there you go. As always, stay safe. Please like, share, subscribe. All the best. Take care. Bye.